If you're trying to stay low carb this Thanksgiving, but you're worried there isn't going to be much to eat at the holiday table except for turkey, maybe a green salad, and a couple of olives, all the other traditional side dishes are loaded with carbs, so they're off limits. And sure, you could make your own keto versions of your favorite holiday sides, but they take a lot of time, and chances are you're probably going to be the only one eating them because, let's face it, everybody's going to go for second health beans of Aunt Kathy's mashed potatoes rather than your stinky cauliflower mash. So unless you want to have keto Thanksgiving leftovers every night for the next week, I have a better solution for you. I'm going to show you how to make an entire low-carb Thanksgiving meal for just one person, no leftovers, in under 1 hour, and I'll even throw in some dessert. Let's start by making a keto roll. To mimic the flavor and texture of a buttery, fluffy dinner roll, I want to use yeast. Obviously, we can't use sugar to feed the yeast, but you know what has just a hint of sugar to help these guys multiply? Heavy cream. I microwave a tablespoon of heavy cream for 10 seconds because yeast needs a warm environment to grow. You don't want this cream to be too hot, ideally somewhere around 105 to 120 degrees. Any hotter is just going to kill the guys. So I add in a 1/4 teaspoon of yeast right when it's around 118 degrees since this is going to cool pretty quickly. And it needs to sit for 10 minutes. Now, if your family's anything like mine, chances are when you get to Mima's house, there's going to be this barrage of appetizers waiting for all the guests and yourself to snack on while you wait for the turkey to finish. Many of those are probably not going to be low carb, so that's why I bring my own snack. Crunch mix, anyone? Catalina Crunch comes in 4 flavors, and what flavor you bring says a lot about you. If you're trying to be the coolest auntie, then bring cheddar. Traditional if you're not trying to make waves or stir up any family drama, but if you are, then go with the spicy kick, especially if you pair it with a Manhattan, the drink, not your sister's new city slicker boyfriend. And ranch if you live in the Midwest. Each bag is comprised of nuts, Catalina Crunch cereal, and can you believe these pretzels are made out of chickpeas? So not only is it low carb friendly, it's gluten free too. Each half cup serving has only 5 net carbs and 8 grams of protein. It's gonna help keep those hangries away so you don't snap at the next relative that questions your life choices. Just put a handful in your mouth and pretend like you can't hear them. Even though family can be annoying sometimes, they're family, and this season is all about being thankful and being together. Plus it beats being at home alone with a bowl of cereal. That actually sounds nice, especially if it's a bowl of delicious Catalina Crunch cereal, which is keto friendly. Also available in different flavors and only 5 net carbs per serving. Be the favorite relative at the table this holiday season by bringing Catalina Crunch. Head to catalinacrunch.com/ketofocus and use code KETOFOCUS to save 15% off of your order. From crunch mix to cookies to cereal, Catalina Crunch will help you through the holidays and beyond. Plus, with the 15% off savings, you can get yourself something nice for the holidays.
Really nice.
Meanwhile, let's add our dry ingredients. I'm actually making 2 rolls today, one for dinner and then one to go in our stuffing. So I'm gonna add a 1/2 cup of almond flour, 1 tablespoon of oat fiber, a 1/2 teaspoon of allulose or sweetener of your choice, a 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder, and an 1/8 teaspoon of salt. And I like to use allulose because it helps these rolls turn golden brown when they bake. Next, I'm gonna add some of my wet ingredients here, but I'm not gonna mix them yet until my yeast is ready. So I'm gonna add a tablespoon of softened unsalted butter and a teaspoon of sour cream. And since we have time before our 10-minute timer goes off and that yeast is ready, I'm gonna start making our cranberry sauce. It would be absolutely ridiculous and wasteful for you to purchase an entire bag of fresh cranberries. So instead, we're gonna be using dried cranberries. And make sure you look for a brand that is low sugar too. So reduced sugar, no added sugars, get the lowest carb count as possible. And you're only gonna need to use around a 1/2 to 1 tablespoon of cranberries. But at least these keep for a long time and it's not gonna be as wasteful as using fresh cranberries. To rehydrate, we're gonna add in a tablespoon of water and then we're gonna microwave this for 30 seconds. Now we are gonna be using the microwave for a lot of these recipes and you're just like, microwave is the devil. Well, then you might have a hard time heating up some of these volumes of liquid. I mean, a tablespoon is not very large. You're gonna need like a Barbie size saucepan or skillet to do that, or if you could use like your smallest skillet that you have, that might work, but otherwise microwave. To encourage these cranberries to rehydrate further, I'm gonna wrap them in plastic wrap. This is also gonna keep them warm, but we're gonna set it aside right now and come back to it because our yeast is ready. It smells yeasty. So we're gonna add this to the bowl with our bread ingredients. And then we're also gonna add 1 egg white And you can actually save the yolk to use as a thickener to our gravy if you want, but I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna use instead later on. Since these rolls are gluten-free, we want to add something to our dough that's gonna help serve as a binder, but also give it elasticity so that they can rise up as they bake. And for that, we're gonna use psyllium husk. I'm gonna turn it into a gel first because I think it's a little bit easier to incorporate. Plus, there's no risk of it clumping up. So add a tablespoon of warm water to this teaspoon of psyllium husk powder, and then just stir it until it's gel-like. And we'll immediately pour that into our batter and then stir until everything's combined. This took me 12 tries to perfect this recipe. At the beginning stages, my rolls tasted more like biscuits, like buttery biscuits, which I'll have to show you how to make those in a later video. Now that the dough looks like this, almost elastic-like, it's time to roll them into balls. This dough is wet, making it really hard to roll with your hands. It just likes to stick all over. To help with that, you want to wet your hands first or just spray them with some cooking spray and they won't stick. I'm going to be proofing and baking mine in the air fryer, so I'm laying down a parchment paper over the air fryer tray, and these will proof in my air fryer for 30 minutes at 90 degrees. If you don't have an air fryer or yours can't do that, just place them on a parchment lined baking tray and then put a towel over it and put it on top of your stovetop and turn the oven on to like 350 or so. The heat from the oven is gonna help provide heat to your bread rolls to help them rise. While your rolls are growing, we're gonna start working on our keto mashed potatoes. Obviously, we're not using potatoes because they're too high in carbs. Instead, I'm using a turnip. A potato has 6 times the amount of carbs compared to a turnip. And turnips can be bitter, especially if you get the big ones, so try and find the smaller ones if you can locate them. But I'll give you some tips at the end on what to do if they do taste bitter, so don't worry if you can't find the small ones. Dice these into smaller uniform pieces so that they cook faster, and then add them to a microwave-safe dish with a little splash of water or chicken broth. Cover it with plastic wrap, and then we're gonna microwave this for 4 to 5 minutes. Again, you can do this on the stovetop, but I'm really trying to get 25 comments to tell me how bad the microwave is for my health, so I'm just trying to be a little encouraging. Our turnips should be soft. You know that they're gonna be ready when a fork can easily slide through them. Drain this water off, and then add the cooked turnips to a blender, mini food processor, or just use this medieval blender right here. It's a fork. Add a tablespoon of each, butter and heavy cream, then salt and pepper. Not a tablespoon of those though, just like a little bit, 1/8 of a teaspoon probably. Then blend until smooth and creamy. Now if you taste this and it does taste bitter, then just add a little bit of sweetener to it and it should counteract that bitterness. Our rolls have finished proofing, and to give them that nice pretty sheen on top, I'm gonna add a mixture of an egg white plus a little bit of milk, like a tablespoon of milk or so, and then brush that on the top of them. It's completely optional though. Then I'm gonna air fry these at 350 degrees for 8 to 9 minutes, or you can bake these in your oven at around 12 to 14 minutes. Let's move on to the gravy. In this video, I'm actually not making a turkey. Turkey's already keto friendly, so I'm just gonna assume that somebody else is making it, and we're just handling the sides. But since I don't have any turkey drippings to make the gravy, I'm gonna use 1 ounce of ground sausage instead, or you could use bacon. I'm not gonna keep the sausage in my gravy. I just want the grease that comes off of it. So once that sausage is cooked through, we're gonna remove it and set it aside because I'm gonna use that for something else in just a bit. I didn't get that much grease off of this sausage, so I'm gonna add an additional 1/2 tablespoon of butter. Once that's melted, stir in 1/4 teaspoon of arrowroot powder. That's my go-to keto thickener. 1 tablespoon of heavy cream, and then whisk in 3 tablespoons of chicken broth. If you didn't have arrowroot powder, this is where you could use that egg yolk. If you manage to save one of them, it'll work as a thickener in your gravy too. Once your gravy's thickened, remove it from the heat, and then you're gonna stir in 1/8 teaspoon of black pepper and poultry seasoning each. And then taste it and see if it needs any salt. Maybe just a pinch. Let me show you what I'm gonna do with that sausage that we set aside. I'm gonna make a single serve portion of keto stuffing. Toss that into a skillet, and you can use the same skillet that you just made the gravy in if you don't wanna end up doing a bunch of dishes. Also add in 1/2 tablespoon of butter. And while that heats over medium heat, chop up some veggies. I'm gonna chop up 1/2 of a celery stick, 1 tablespoon of diced onion, 1 mushroom, and then a clove of garlic. But you can add whatever you want. Like if you're super picky about your stuffing mix, then just add that stuff. But all this right here is my favorite, and it smells so good. Then we're gonna get into our spice drawer. And besides a pinch of salt, I'm going to need a pinch of sage and a pinch of thyme. Then add in 1 tablespoon of chopped parsley. And we're going to turn the heat down because these rolls are ready. And look at how well these turned out. They're spongy, they're perfect. We're going to set one of these aside for dinner, and then the other one we're going to put in our stuffing. We're going to tear it into pieces and then add it right in. And then to give it a little bit of liquid, because nobody likes a dry stuffing, we're going to add in 1 to 2 tablespoons of chicken broth. All that's left to finish is our cranberries. You can see that they've rehydrated for the most part, and I just need to run a knife through them just to chop them up to get them more sauce-like. Then you can plate that over your turkey. There is your delicious keto Thanksgiving dinner for one. What about dessert? I have a single serve keto pumpkin pie recipe just for you. Click right here to see how to make it. Oh, and happy Thanksgiving.